Hello and welcome to the Dog Savant Podcast. My name is Brett Endies. I am a professional dog trainer. This show is for you if you are a dog owner, puppy owner, somebody looking for dog training advice, the life of a professional. Oh, I can't talk. I hate doing this. All right, let me just talk. Hello, welcome to the Dog Savant Podcast. My name is Brett Endies. This show is for you if you are a dog or puppy owner looking for training and behavior advice or want to learn more about the life of a professional dog trainer. This podcast is for you. I'll always ask, please don't forget to share, rate, review, subscribe to this podcast. It's on Spotify currently. I also have social media at the Dog Savant. More importantly, I recently was accepted to veterinary school. I implore I ask everybody, please, if you support what I do and find the merit in my content, or you see an ability for me to help you, please go to my GoFundMe page or my Patreon page. It's going to be either under my name, Brett Endies, or on Patreon. It's under Revitalized, Revetalized. And not to sound too much like a salesman, but I also have a podcast that I started recently called the Revitalized Podcast with Brett Endies. So again, if you're interested in that part of my life as a person preparing to start veterinary school at 51 years old next month, starting in January next year, the school, subscribe and follow that as well. Okay, so today we're going to talk at length, in depth. Um, about separation anxiety, and that's something I've talked many times about. I, as a professional dog trainer, deal with that, not deal help clients with that uh, daily, pretty much, and it does run concurrent with other issues like reactivity, overall, leash issues, behavior problem, just a discontented dog's not listening, impulse control, all of that. So also, why am I talking about this? And I've mentioned this in other episodes. I'm writing a book, and I talk better than I write when it comes to this type of content. So I have a list of things that I want to for my next chapter, and I'm going to point on that. So for your benefit, just as someone to learn more about separation anxiety, but also for me to just kind of broad stroke articulate some of um, what I'm trying to teach in a book that I'm writing in a comprehensive way. I think you're going to like it, so stay tuned for that as well. Let me get, oh, and also I always ask if you have any questions, you can email me, dogtrainingla@gmail.com. That's the last plug there. I just wanted to just make sure you have a way to contact me. So let's talk about this. So at this point, I've talked about in other episodes the causes of anxiety, what to do about it as solutions. Now I'm going to just talk a little bit more about like signs of it. I'm going to give us, kind of like insights on like when I've talked about it with like other professionals like veterinarians or veterinary behaviorists or just everyday owners, like what their take is on it, right? um, Stories about this, some cases. I mean, I've seen some severe stuff when it comes to separation anxiety, and how, I mean, it's sad, but it actually can be a safety issue for the dogs, by how extreme it can get. And we're going to talk about, even maybe I'll make a note here, make segue into like some crates. I got to put the glasses on. All right, we're getting serious now. When they come on, it's serious. I got to clean the shit. All right, so yeah, this isn't professional. If you don't know me, I try and I've said it before. I'm one person trying to keep this interesting and keep the conversation going. Well, I'll have guests. Hopefully I'm going to get this more on track, and we'll have some guests too. So yeah, then I'm going to talk about just like in case studies, things like that. Um, and then maybe a little bit more. I have some other, like, just like an outline for my chapter, but these are my notes that I wanted to actually talk about. Okay, so let's talk about like some common signs, right? Or at least signs that I've seen and signs that I've read about, consulted with other professionals about, that they've seen. And it is usually the same mixed bag. So it's really more the extremity of these signs, right? Like, so like your dog could be a little bit destructive. Like, okay, when we leave them alone, they'll chew the corner of the wall. That's a big one. Dogs love to chew baseboards and edges of things, frays of rugs, corners of couches. Baseboards are huge. That's the biggie. And door edges, right? Also to the access points where they want to exit. Now, it can be simple where, oh, my dog just scratches the door. They do scratching. Chewing, I'll explain that as two separate things. Usually it's in this, but they're not going to go scratch chew. Usually it's like one of the other. Sometimes it's your dog's personal preference. Sometimes it's just for like what they think is a way to easier access. Usually it's a desperation to get through a barrier um, when they're going at a point of like exit. If they're doing it like they're just like chewing something randomly or destroying the house, that's more of like generalized, if you will, instead of like, I guess it's the separation anxiety if it's triggered at the owner's departure, by the owner's departure, but it's still, um, it's like kind of versions. Anyway, let's talk about the version of like where it's generalized. So your dog just destroys stuff, doesn't do it so much at an access point. They'll bark, they'll howl. Um, the whimpering sometimes it's like an intermittent, like they do it upon departure or somehow. And I'll talk about Rupert Sheldrake's studies here too. It's very important. See, stream of consciousness helps me. Uh so it'll happen at certain points or like just off and on, like waves of it throughout the day. And again, there's intensity. A dog could do it for a few minutes and not do it so loud, not chew as the destruction might not be as extreme. um, but then it can go to another level. So let's say on that generalized, now it's a dog that just can't settle the entire. Again, you have this inability to settle. They get up, they move around a lot, they just pace. Just kind of these are the symptoms you see. Now, in the basic way, it was what I just described. Kind of a little bit of light. Dog just can't settle. But it more or less comes in waves, and the degree is on a like scale of 1 to 10. Let's say it's like the 2 to 4 range. Then you get the ones where they're doing that, but it's really extreme. They're just frenetic, barking, howling desperately. There's not much break in that. It's more of like a straight line. What they call it, hyperbola. It's not, So it's not so much triggered by like again the departure, the arrival times. It's just anytime they're alone. And we'll talk about again symptoms shown when the owner's home. Talking about just straight up symptoms when the dog is on their own and nobody's there. The destruction. I mean, they're chewing, the baseboards to the walls, cabinet ripping up, everything. If you give them chew toys, they make quick work of it. Furniture is getting destroyed. Again, it's all things like extraneous in the environment. It's not targeted as like, I've got to get out of here. It's more I'm acting out because I'm frustrated. I don't know what to do. I don't understand. And I just feel that there's got to be some seether to this very strong feeling I'm having inside. So again, that would be like level 4 and beyond. So um, then you get, and I've seen it like with these dogs. I mean, you've probably seen the videos or the pictures on social media. I mean, the level, the dogs that they can get with the destructive behaviors is really something else. And again, if you think you're going to die, and it's like in that moment, it's not like, well, I might die. It's like, no, I have to fight this feeling, and I have to find a seether or a solution, or it's over. So it can get really extreme. Then you have the more that's trying to get out of the house. So the dog's trying to get through the door, and that's everything from scratching door, chewing the edges of doors. I saw once a Weimaraner. A lot of deep-chested breeds, I find that should be something I'm going to look into, see if there's ever been studies on this. But deep-chested breeds, a lot of times, are more likely to get this in the more severe level. Again, in my experience, 30 years I've been a dog trainer dealing with problem behaviors from day one, more or less. I've seen a Weimaraner chewed a door handle flat. I mean, the dog's teeth were broke. It was sad. Um, these things shouldn't get that far. That's a point I really try to make. I'm just talking about what I've gotten in, what I get called into as a first time meeting of some of these cases. Um, yeah, so you get, I mean, chewing through the doors, chewing through walls. I saw one time, twice. Here's two that were really extreme in that regard. One was a dog where the owner came and the dog's head was sticking out of the side of the wall. That dog chewed through the plasterboard, the insulation, the exterior wall, the siding, and the owner was home quick enough where the dog didn't make a full escape. I had another one that was really scary. The owner lived in like a townhome community, and they told me that they got the owner like a call from the owner got a call from the security guards in the community. Says, you got to come home, your dog's on the roof. And they're like, well, how did my dog get on the roof? The dog got so worked up that it crashed through their glass window and luckily there was a second floor window. There was there was like a roof overhang above their garage that was in the front of the house. And again, these are usually targeted at the exit points. That's why when I do crate training, a strong recommendation I make, and this is very important note note to make here, is when you, at least when you're leaving, I mean, you can move the crate around the different spots just to kind of get them used to it and not always have them in a crate when you're home. I've talked about why crate is complementary to other things you have to work on consistently to help with this issue. But if you put the crate by the door, your dog can look out the door and they have a very strong level of it. It's harder for them to settle in it because they see where the exit point is. They saw where you departed or where they know they can get out, or another way to get out that maybe you didn't leave, but they know it's an exit point, or they think it can be, like the case of the dog that chewed through the wall. Um, so yeah, so again, we won't talk into crate stuff. We've done that, and I'll talk more about it maybe in this or in another episode. But yeah, it gets pretty intense. So this dog, dog, thankfully the dog knew enough not to jump off the roof overhang, but got cut up, was okay. But yeah, I mean that's how extreme, And if you thought you were gonna die, I mean, the poor people in 9/11. I was in New York at the time, and I know some people passed away. The situation was so bad that they were willing to jump as an alternative. So again, humans can make you just have to put in perspective for the dog seeing it. They're not thinking rationally at that moment. They're in such a complete state of meltdown and a high level of just everything rapid firing in their mind in a fight or flight response. They just can't shut it off. They have to, and that's why we have to address it at its base level. I've talked about structure, not having the dog keep track of everything that goes on, getting used to the coming and goings while implementing that structure, including crate time and other means to them getting um, more of their fulfillment in life, even if it's more exercise and training and ways to, but a structure and logistically seeing in a black and white way that coming and goings are not something that by keeping tabs and proximity on, they're getting their needs met. If it's a dog that's either learned to be or is wired or breed wise is more geared to be this way. And you got to work through that. If it's a young dog or a rescue you just got, that's hard. Um, so yeah, like that. So, insights. Most trainers see these same issues. I'm not trying to think if there's any other symptoms that you'd see. Um, again, it's just levels. So the going to the door thing, again, it could be a dog scratching the door, just tearing through, like I described those stories. Trying to think, is there anything else? No, it's usually just that, or the dog just can't settle. I mean, there's only so many ways a dog's going to show they have separation anxiety. What's the alternative? A dog just loafing around, not caring when you come back and when you come home. It's a reasonable response. I mean, they're going to be interested, and if there's a longer time duration, like I was away last week, and I was the longest I'd been away from my dogs from I don't even remember how long. It's 5 days, and they weren't like out of their mind. They were very happy. I saw the videos from the pet sitter who was caring for them, but they were much different than when I come home from a 6 hour workday. So there is a time thing that definitely, but average time, and wasn't like they were miserable when I was gone. It was a stronger response, which was still within reason. People get that kind of response when they just come back from a bathroom visit. That's a little much, and that's a symptom of separation anxiety. All right, so we'll talk more about the symptoms of it too. If your dog is just like overreacting everything, anticipating, needs to be close, that's a given. Doesn't not want to be in a different room, is pushy, is coming up to you asking for things, and you're accommodating, asking to ring the doorbell, asking to go out, asking for food. That's giving the dog this impatient wiring and this thinking of, well, it's a one-way street. If I'm asking for one thing, now I've got to anticipate the next thing, instead of being cool as a cucumber and waiting for people to dictate the coming and goings, including when it's time to be left on their own and all the needs are met. And that's our obligation. Meet your dog's needs, walk them, train them, exercise them, feed them, potty them, and they're happy and good to go. It's our guilt that sometimes drives this, because maybe we're not doing enough of things that our dogs need, or we're not willing to make the changes in ourselves that our dogs require to help them. Um, yeah, so just, so most trainers see the same thing. Vet behaviorist, I'm going to talk about that because I'm on my way to becoming a veterinarian. So I think not yet, but I will have more credence in this area soon. I think that they don't have as much applied understanding of the dynamics of this, like I'm describing about the everyday vigilance, the type of relationship. Dogs that don't have good leaders and weak owners are going to be more likely to have anxiety because they have to worry about status of something that deep down they can't handle, but it's a human condition to try and undertake. A lot of people don't have that kind of time, right? Like vets, even behaviorists, they're going to do like one session. I spend months with a family and a lot of phone and text. That's why, I give a lot of my effort because I want to educate these people, and I also want them to real. I know the dynamic, and it's a very thorough thing when a dog is living with a human. It's not like just do this or just reward this and ignore that or give them a pill. It's not that simple. So I think the veterinary behavior is not to go on not to digress here, but I do think that sometimes they speak in a way of experience that's based more on book experience and hearsay experience, meaning like somebody sharing a story instead of them being in this environment, intimately interacting with the dogs, the dynamics, and actually physically handling dogs. Most veterinary behaviorists don't even physically handle dogs. They just kind of look, or they don't even meet the dog, and even if I was going to be a behaviorist once I'm a veterinarian, I'm still going to, it's training, it's conditioning. I'll just have a better understanding of, just some of the dynamics of this. And I'm also going to be more able to maybe address, I don't know, just some other holistic things, whatever. I don't want to get off topic. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. So that's, my take on that. But there's a lot of good dog trainers. If you're someone looking for dog training, anyone who promotes themselves in your hometown as like a balanced dog trainer. I myself, I do Zoom training, and I'll be doing that exclusively next year when I'm in vet school. So reach out to me. I can definitely help you if you listen to this. That's one of the purposes of this podcast, is to have you, as someone who might not be in my local area, which will be no one next year, um, be able to have me help them, and I can still earn a living doing what I do best and love, which is training dogs and helping them get over their behavior issues. Um, let's see. Yeah, so I gave some case studies. I gave some, um, yeah, I think I've kind of given more of that. Let's go through some of my outline here to stay on topic. Yeah, some of this stuff, the basic, it's stuff that I just talked about. The better, I'll talk a little bit about like some modalities of treatment that, and some alternative things that, a lot of I use, and then what some other veterinarians and whatnot use. And I know some trainers that do, and I understand the merit. I just like to see something more organically happen and work on the dog's nutrition, supplementation. What I do is sometimes, if it's really extreme, I'll put the dog on a CBD. I do usually recommend the oil type. They make ones that are in salmon oil, so the dogs enjoy it usually. And I think it's more concentrated, if at all. I think the ones that are put in dog treats are not as, I don't know, maybe they're cooked. Something in it from the little controls that I've seen, which is again just a lot of unrelated dog owners sharing experiences from similar situations. So that's my little experiment. Sorry, it's not like published and official, but I know what I see, and I'm pretty good at following patterns myself. Um, they say that that works better. I'll do, also, I call them calming pills. That's not really a real professional way to describe it, but I call them like just any kind of like, like a homeopathic kind of supplement. I can list some of the things, and I'm sure there's others. And if you have some ideas or home remedies, something natural, something, the whole idea of these first step solutions is you're not putting anything in your dog that's going to create like a negative response. Yes, CBD, a dog might get. I think dogs, they get more energy with CBD from what I've seen. I gave it to my old dog Boo before he passed away for the last year. It just made him seem more like comfortable with life, and he seemed more lively and, if you want to call it, puppy like. Um, Joints and bones, it does that, but for sometimes it slows down some of that action potential activity, and that's just a synaptic gap that, uh, I'm not going to get into a whole into a whole biology course here. I'm sitting with a book sitting in front of me. But it's basically, there's like a gap between the cells and the neurons, the nerve cells. And it's like jumping of electricity. We're made of electricity. ATP creates energy and blah, blah, blah. So it just creates that jump. And sometimes it slows it down, because when you get like, that's what anxiety is. You're in that area of your brain is too active, which creates thoughts and physical, even biologically rapid heart rate and sweating and all that stuff. For humans, for dogs, it's more expressed in physical and like more primal kind of responses. They're not going to complain like I do when I'm anxious. I kind of get this. There's a parallel. I live the life, just a human version, if you will, hypervigilance problems. So yeah, so CBD, homeopathic. Let's list some of the items. I'm going to do off the cuff. There's other ones, I'm sure. Tryptophan, valerian, St. John's wort, kava kava. Um, gosh, there's so many others. Of course I knew I'd draw a blank, but there's like a host of others, and there's usually going to be like combinations of them. Again, make sure your dog's eating a very good diet. It doesn't have to be raw diet, but I would recommend if you're going to give a good quality dry, make it a good quality dry. I personally find that if a dog is struggling with any kind of behavioral issues, I treat this like I do, and my daughter. When the people on the spectrum tend to find that a more of a ketogenic type of diet helps not only physically but mentally feel better. The brain's an organ; you want everything, all systems go. If you're struggling with things not acting or reacting to life in an optimum way, so I usually have a dog at least nutrition. Again, I realistically clients aren't going to want to go out and deal with a whole raw diet, but what I would say is if you have a good quality dry, supplement it with raw items, vegetables, fruits. There's lists online all day long of all the different things, the good things you can give your dogs. Fish oils, very good for the dog's brain. Supplementation, all that stuff is really important. They have powder, they have full spectrum supplements. All these things, if you're not doing it, I would do it. The exercise, all of these things you want to do. But then again, I'm going to stay on like more of like the supplement medication on here for a sec. They have also pheromones where you can. They have rescue remedies. They have comfort zones. I don't even know if they make that anymore, but it's like a plug-in air freshener. But it sends out something for the dogs that they can sense. All these things are negligible in how they might be working. But I've heard from some clients that just complement in a complementary way, they could maybe help with the process of working on dogs behavior issues, or just making them a nice happy dog that just feels content and has fulfillment in their life, aside from resolving some severe issues you might be struggling with. So medication, usually what they'll put a dog on, if it's like long term, it's fluoxetine, which is going to be like dog Prozac. Again, I don't remember, but Clomicalm was one. Reconcile, I believe, was another one. I don't know if they're the same formula. They might just be two different companies making the same thing. They'll sometimes for short term, or like also, and I'm going to talk real quick about like uh, situational or environmental kind of anxiety. And pardon me if that's not the right word. When I become a vet, I'll have all the right words, guys. But yeah, situation, environmental anxiety. So basically, like your dog's a calm, chill dog, but they get anxious like when they're in a new place or they're traveling. And these are usually easier to resolve because it's a lot of desensitization. And if your dog is calm or trusting that you can guide them through life and it's just you haven't experienced it, or we're not reacting the right way, we're petting our dog or we're avoiding it instead of building up their attention and focus to help them navigate it. And I'll talk about how to deal with maybe those more in public. Or again, it could be a phobia to something. So again, it's like an anxiety, but it's more like of a fear. But none of this dog just acts anxious and nervous in one specific situation, environment that's, let's say, out of the home and not tied to the owners coming and going. It's a different type of anxiety. So we can like subcategorize that if you want. But yeah, so they'll give medications for that. Come on. It's usually it's going to be trazodone. Um, uh, I'm drawing a trazodone. Um, I'll think of it here in a sec, but they usually do a combo here. I was just talking about the other day. My gosh. It'll come in, but they usually will do that as a combo, usually as a one-shot deal. If a veterinarian, behaviorist, trainer recommends, whoever it is, your family care practitioner, um, recommends that you put your dog on one of these like more deep sedatives, because these are meant to like knock the dog out. Your dog's going to fly. Your dog got firework issues, which again I like to work through real issues, but sometimes they're helpful just for one shot if you're not using it to address an issue that hasn't been addressed, or to try to resolve an issue that hasn't been addressed. So, but if a veterinarian or someone or a behaviorist recommends that, like, yeah, just put them on that every day. Even a Xanax I've seen, which is heavy duty stuff. That's a lot. Um, yeah, I would definitely try something else first, and definitely I wouldn't be listening to them, because that's dangerous, and that also is going to make your dog not have any quality of life. They're just not going to be present. What the hell? It's fun. It's fun to have a drink once in a while, but if you're like drunk and wasted all the time, how the hell are you going to exist? Dogs, they're not conscious. They don't even know what the hell. So anyway, that bothers me a lot because I've seen it happen. I'm looking it up, guys. I'm going nuts. This is Brett Brain. I'm going to find out the name of that one medicine that I cannot. I don't know. I have just too much stuff going in my head. I'm learning organic chemistry, guys. If you also want to go on my Facebook, I have a live study tutor video I posted today. Medications for vet issues prescribed. Anyone want to buy me a laptop? Mine's like 10 years old. Uh, Behavior, anxiety. Sorry, I didn't even type anxiety. Like they're just listing every vet. Here we go. Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of list. No, yeah, fluoxetine, trazodone. Let's see the um amitriptyline, yeah. It's, uh, medications, dog surgery. Wow, this is you just lost the GABA, boom, GABA pen. There you go. See again, too much going on. That's like the obvious GABA pen. There you go. I knew it. It's so annoying when you don't. They really, boy, it's like a pharmacy's closet. The list of like, just again, surgical needs, things like that. So yeah, so they'll do that. But that would be when do I've seen too many cases where the dog was heavily medicated, and it's like, well, can we try to wean the dog off? And you should wean the dog off. You're not just cold turkey it, but we couldn't get any training done. The dog was out of there. They didn't know what was going on. We had to slow them. Now, you've done everything, or your dog is like, well, we got this dog, we just got to do something. We've tried training, we've done everything to meet this dog's needs, and it's just a tough dog, and we want to just not give up yet. Sure. But I'm telling you, I've got to that place where I said, let's try it. We've done everything. I know dogs. I know you guys are doing a great job, but it's rarely is that. It's the owner's not doing enough. The owner's not making the change the dog needs. They're not being consistent, or they're not taking the time to go take the dog on a hike enough, and their dog's acting out, or they're babying the dog. This is what it usually comes down to. And it's not saying some dogs you can get away with this, but that's not who needs a trainer. That's not who sees separation anxiety manifest itself. But yeah, so if there's nothing, and maybe that's not even once a year. I'll say, I think maybe let's give it a try and see if it can complement training. Now, there's trainers, and there's a trainer I know who I respect very much. He'll go on a low dose fluoxetine, I think it is, right when he starts with a dog, and says he has great results with that. I'm going to look more into that for my own knowledge, because I'm not going to poo-poo something, and I know he's a good trainer, and I've seen his results, and I know him personally. He's on the level. He's not like BS guy. He gets results, and he deals with difficult dogs too. But yeah, so I'll give that, but it's not too common. And even then, I haven't seen it used like, Brett, the medication made the difference. Once over, 15 plus years of knowing these things existed, I've seen. So just don't do that first. And I really wouldn't recommend it. And if someone's pushing that right away without training structure, you hear how I talk about this stuff. You got to do that first and foremost. Um, Let's finish with just a little talk about Mr. Sheldrake. I've always been a fan of his. I've done talks about him on podcasts. Rupert Sheldrake. He's from England, I believe. I think he's a psychologist or a comparative psychologist or an anthropologist, something. So he talks about morphic resonance. He's done studies on it. People have gotten very upset about it. It more or less, I'm going to break this down to the most basic way because I don't want to talk forever. I'm getting tired anyway. But basically, we don't exist within all living things don't exist within their packaging, right? We're in our bodies, or animals are in our bodies, but there's like a frequency, kind of like a Wi-Fi signal. I have your phone and you have your router, and somehow they can connect somewhere in the middle where they can operate, where they're communicating and sensing each other without physical contact, or being even within like sensory space, where you can see, hear, smell, touch, see, whatever. See, hear, smell, touch. You can't taste. Well, you can taste the person, I guess. It's a little weird. But anyway, so they say people, animals do that. And animals, not just dogs, cats, birds, dogs, of course. And the study was called Dogs are pets who know when their owners are coming home. Something to that effect. And what happened is that they would put, and basically he said that like dogs, especially dogs, probably more with separation anxiety, and dogs that are like, they basically, and it's a way for survival. If you can sense threat, or you can sense someone coming back that's going to hunt with you or bring back your hunt or protect, you're going to know before it happens almost. So what happens is they say that a dog can sense, or again, any animal prior to the owner coming home. So what they did was they would put a pager, they give the owner a pager and a camera on the dog at home. And I believe they had the owner drive a rental car so that there was no, like sometimes dogs get so good at following patterns and subtle things that they could hear the difference in the sounds of cars, right? So that might be a trigger, but not in all the animals, but in many, supposedly when they would send the owner a message to start going home in this rental vehicle, a large portion of the animals would get up and go wait at the door many miles beforehand. I don't know how long the longest distance or time stretch was from the time they left to the time they got home, but that's pretty cool. And anyone who lives with animals has seen something like that probably play out. I've seen it. I heard stories, dogs getting tuned. It's not like weird. I think that there is something going on with the molecules, the energy, whatever it is, like the way magnets can kind of, but on like a bigger level and in a more kind of connective way. It's pretty interesting stuff. It's really neat. If in the future, I think we are going to study and understand that more. But I'm telling you, I've had dogs, just my vibe. Dogs, you think something, and it's like I've done things where I can think of a command strongly, and I've had dogs do the command on thought. I tell owners, like when I show up to a house, their dog is sort of like speaking to me in like a non-language way of communicating. It's like more like vibes, right? It's the best way to describe it. But these things can be real. Again, call me crazy, but all I hear is dogs listen and seem to be calm in your presence, and sometimes you don't even touch the leash. It's not magic. It's just I'm in tune with those vibes, and I know how to kind of send my Wi-Fi signal out better than the average person because I've tuned into it. This is my life, how I'm wired, and I've existed around dogs my entire life. I mean, 30 years plus before that, it was my world even when I wasn't getting paid for it. I help and volunteer at places and dogs of my own. I mean, yeah. So it's just you get in tune with that. People don't believe me. See my body of work. See all the unrelated people share. Not bragging. I'm just saying. Sometimes you want to be validated as a human.